we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to today's weather tonight. Here, as most of the time, I'm Cloud Hudson. I'll be your comedian / meteorologist for the night. So let's get this thing going. I have been gone for 2 days. I just needed to take a little break from the world, from social. This is not my only job, so I also have a lot of other jobs that I have to do to be alive, and it just took a minute of my relaxation. I had to take a little vacation. I've been doing this for 4 or 5 days straight. I need to take a little breather for a second, but I'm back, and thankfully nothing popped off. That's a joke. We've seen we've seen this ginormous atmospheric river rainfall event in Southern California. There's been increased seismic activity, more earthquakes in the areas where we're expecting volcanoes to erupt soon, but have not seen yet. And we've seen some really cool increase in activity in solar activity. So let's go ahead and share the screen and start getting into the reports that other people have already so beautifully put together. Here we go. All right. So here we go. We are looking at we had most recently some cool eruptive activity at Stromboli in the Aeolian Islands in Italy. In the central southern crater, they had lava bombs and glowing lapilli. To the upper, Schiara del Fuoco rolled down the flank, blah, blah, blah. Oh, don't give me ads right now. What I'm really trying to say is go back to this page. Okay. We've also been waiting for the Reykjanes Peninsula to do something, but we are now, what I can say about what we're seeing right now is that we got to the peak and we're leveling off, and we're expecting something to happen after the peaking and leveling off has happened, but there will still be one more small, rapid shift in pressure that we're going to be able to sense from a article just came out that they are using the geothermal vent boreholes in the ground in order to sense the oncoming eruptive activity. So in this case, the geothermal is kind of a good thing that we have a little bit of a sounding down into the earth to see how that earth is moving. You can see a cool satellite image of where we've seen ground uplift recently. And the gray is not that the earth is moving. The gray here is actually where there was too much snow for them to use the GPS movement accurately. So let's go ahead here at Ibeko Island, Suwanosejima Islands. They're doing pretty well. Volcanian style explosion, which means looks like a real volcano. Samiro and Merapi still getting about volcanian type eruptions all the way in. This just makes me want to look at our map because we're still seeing continuous volcanic ash emissions at all these South American places, but here in the West Pacific, we're getting those classic volcanoes. So I want to see what that means for our earthquake data. So let's go ahead and check that out. How is everyone tonight? I hope you're doing well. I've missed you all. I just had to take a little. We had all those solar storms coming in this weekend, and I just need to take a little bit more of a nap than usual. Okay. Wow. Gorgeous. Let's go ahead and make sure this is on. Let's go ahead and look at the past 3 days, just because I need to recap from Sunday to latest available. All magnitudes, all depths. And let's take a look. All right. So finally, some stuff showing up on the mid-Atlantic ridge south of Reykjanes Peninsula. It's on what they call the Reykjanes Ridge, because it goes. This is the ridge of. Let me go ahead and put on those plate boundaries. This is part of the plate boundary that goes all the way up through Iceland. This is where we expect to see any of this happening. Really early today on the 6th, we saw 4.6. Yesterday, we saw 5.5 and another 4.6 out here. Actually, there's been a lot of activity right here between the Labrador Sea and the Norwegian Sea, or like between Canada and Ireland, really in that North Atlantic region where there's some, I don't know, it's like basically over the Titanic or something. This is what I've been waiting to see, to expect some increased activity in Iceland. And we did see a big cluster of earthquakes here today. Again, the Icelandic reports are not on this particular map. I'm waiting. But we also saw more activity in Europe than we usually do. Saw a 4 magnitude earthquake at 10 kilometers depth yesterday. We're also seeing a 4.2 at 35 kilometers depth off the coast of Greece. And then it looks like the Kyrgyzstan aftershocks are kind of rippling back into a more normal location to see earthquakes, which is in Afghanistan, Tajikistan borders. They're both shallow and hundreds of kilometers depth. So I'm expecting that to mean we've got one of each at one of each. So I don't know what to make of that. I'm just reporting. Here in the Gulf of Aden, we saw another one here, 4.4 at 10 kilometers depth today. And then I guess the closest to that, South Africa, getting one today at 3.2 at 5 kilometers depth. If anybody was around to feel it, it looks like that's right on the border of, look at a satellite map. Quite interested to know what's located there, but I'm not going to go look it up. It's not that kind of stream. So, okay, yeah, this is what I was expecting to see of all the volcanic activity over here. Really deep quake, 585 kilometer deep quake, 4.3 on Saturday. Then that was shortly followed by, or no, that was shortly preceded by a shallower and a shallower. Like we really stepped down. It went psh, 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 into the earth. The momentum went into the earth here, starting from this deeper one up here in Malaysia. Yeah, that was the first one. Then we ricocheted into here, getting 80 meters down. Yeah, let me go ahead and just animate these. Let me show you. This is what I'm most getting at. And so let's just go ahead and let the map speak for itself. Hawaii, of course, going crazy right now as Kilauea tries to wake up. Popping all around the regions that are, typically seismically active, but now it looks like we're seeing this 5.3. Is this 97 kilometers depth? 50, 53, 52, 38, 39. All right, so these are mid-range, but not exactly the same depth. 5.1 and a 4.4 in Japan. Now, interesting to see all of these really well triangulated around each other. And in the volcano islands of Japan, which they are seeing a lot of volcanic activity right now, but there's Indonesia and Sumatra are where we're seeing the most classically looking volcano stuff right now. Let's go on overhead. Hawaii, not quiet, but not expecting an imminent eruption. Have been a lot of volcano enthusiasts have been really hoping for something here, but it hasn't panned out that way. And then all the way from Adak, Alaska, all the way up into the Middle Passage up into Fairbanks, all the way to, I mean, we're getting up to 2s and 3s, but again, this is such a new piece of earth with a bunch of cracks in it that it's just cracking itself open, completing its emergence from the earth. That I don't know. I'm not. That's looks like a lot of energy going in and not really finding a focal point. A lot of energy going in and bouncing around. Speaking of bouncing around, look at all the energy bouncing around California we've got. And now this is 2 more days than we usually see at once on my channel. So apologies for the misleading look of it if we're doing 4, 5, and 6 all together. But these offshore quakes look to be focusing down, mixing with what usually transfers. I think the energy transfer comes up to Alaska and moves itself down. Looking at a lot of earthquakes where we've seen a lot of this heavy rain lately. I'm not insinuating anything. I'm just saying what is the difference between these super shallow quakes and subterranean landslides from the water table moving? Maybe it's not a flood on the surface, but maybe there's a flood underneath. Anyway, there's just always earthquakes in Southern California, so don't think anything of it. Over here, pretty typical. This West Texas region transferring into Oklahoma, but we got some outliers here. One in South Carolina. Anyone in South Carolina right now? You're sending out a lot of energy. It's noticed by the world. Down here in the armpit, I call it the armpit of South Carolina because Columbia is just the sweaty, actually, it's more like a sweaty crotchal region. What does this say? Can't even, it's not even big enough for me to hover over and get info. So let's go ahead and, oh, yes. Here we've seen continued earthquakes in Puerto Rico. Of course, why wouldn't we? Mostly on the eastern side of the island, but still trembling around. I mean, if you look at it, there's 2 things getting sandwiched away into transform boundaries and convergent boundaries. So I'm not going to say much about that. I have some thoughts, but I'm not going to say much about it. El Salvador, Panama, Colombia, still seeing not much activity here on the South American continent, but off the shore in the Chile and West Chile Rise and Southern Pacific Ocean, nondescript, not saying anything about that. Saw those shallow 4.8, 10-kilometer depth earthquakes yesterday and today on the West Chile Rise. So see if we've had nothing in the South Sandwich Islands or Mount Erebus region, but do still have a lot of energy getting concentrated into Tonga and shallow quakes here in New Caledonia and to the north of New Zealand. So let's go ahead and switch to our next topic, which is going to be our atmospheric weather. I want to go ahead and take a look at, yeah, let's go ahead and look at null Earth. See what the actual winds are doing. So this is the surface level. And you're like, oh, that doesn't look like it's coming on shore too much. But as we move up in the atmosphere, look at this bringing continued energy. And then we start to see a lack of definition at the 700 and 500 level where we look to see the clouds coming in. Then we start to see this river effect. As we go up to the 500 level, it's like, oh, yeah, we're definitely moving from equator to pole. There's a meridional component to it. And then we get into the 250 level, and this is the Pineapple Express straight from Hawaii. Now, it was even stronger the past few days. Currently, it's slowed down just a bit, but take a look at the relative humidities at these cloud forming levels. At 500, blowing straight from the humid zone into California. And then all of the Pacific Northwest air is not blowing onshore like it usually would. It's blowing down to California. California is getting the Pineapple Express and also the Seattle effect, like the Seattle Express. I don't want to, there are so many jokes I could make that I'm not going to make. It's some sort of grunge express from Seattle to LA right now. Seeing more into, let's go ahead and see if we've got, let's look at chemicals. Let's look at particulates. No, chemicals, not particulates. I want to see sulfur emissions. Oh yeah, had some pretty clear, dry weather here in the West, so we're doing great out here. Yeah, there we go. There are some actual eruptive activity looking sulfuric outputs. And then if you look over here at Iceland, oh, what's that? Looks like we're seeing some steaming and off-gassing. Looks like a coal-burning plant. Only this is not a coal-burning nation. This is a geothermal nation. So people are saying that there's humidity on the lenses and there's no gas plumes. But when you look at the actual live stream cameras, it looks like there might be. And when you look at the sulfur dioxide, looks like we might be seeing just a little volcanic venting over here. Now, that brings me to, let's see if they've actually recorded any of that volcanic gas here. Yeah, ongoing accumulation beneath the Svartsengi Thorbjorn area. Of course. Yeah, it's still going. It's now 9 to 3 million cubic meters of magma have flowed into the Svartsengi magma reservoir, which is, again, the one under the power plant and Blue Lagoon area. Totally not a risk, though. Totally, we can leave them in the medium risk category. They have not. Let's go to they always show gases for their hazard map. Not showing any gas dispersion. Still not seeing much. This is where it would go. Gas can at any time exceed danger levels. The eruptive plume follows the wind direction, is therefore safe to watch the eruption with the wind direction behind you. Blah, 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 blah. They're saying they're, you know, whatever. I'm not going to. I don't even have any strikes again. Hello to my 2 viewers. Welcome back to me not saying what I'm deeply thinking, but I am deeply thinking a lot of things. I've been gone for a little bit because I was doing a little bit of self-care and meditation to prepare for the next 2 weeks, because that was the message I got, was It's the last time we're going to be able to chill for a while. So let's chill for a second. And things are about to, especially with the new moon Friday, get weird, to say the least. So I've gotten some, I don't like to call them downloads because people say that all the time now, but like I've gotten some intuition type messages that like, God. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not a forecaster. I'm a rearcaster, and I'm gonna talk about what actually happened on this timeline instead of calling in the ones where those things happen. I'm gonna focus on just talking about what actually happened in this material timeline. So speaking of that, let's go ahead and skip straight on up. No, I don't want to skip the weather. Let me go to the real-time analysis because we have to talk about the amount of water that's been dumped on California. There is just, I want to see some of this real-time analysis. Not a forecaster or a rearcaster. A rearcaster would go and show you the actual things that happened. Not forecasts. All right. Real analysis. All right, so we can see just we'll look at the temperatures just to get a little overview of what's going on here. Just a little overview of how the air fluid is flowing. Don't get me started on how air is a gas. It's a mixture of liquid in suspension inside of a gas. So shut up. But look at you can see the cloud thermal effect, like how the clouds are insulating here. You can see the clouds on the temperature map. That's how strong this continued rain activity off the west coast has been. And you can see that little almost micro trough pulling all of the cold air, really cold air from the coast of Canada over the warm air of the Pacific, causing and cold air meaning dry. I mean, not always dry, but like an amount of water in cold air will precipitate out before it will in hot air. So hot air can hold more water than cold air can. So when you see the cold air move over the ocean, you expect that air will, as it warms up, also be able to soak up a lot of that water. Now it'll cool off, and it all goes at the same time. There's not like digression between cooling and warming and humidifying, but and it all has to do with motion. That's why weather's like so hard to learn, because you can't just start with one variable and learn from there. They all always happen together. So speaking of that, let's take a look at our dew points. Let's see the desert getting soaked, absolutely drenched. I mean, and this is not a dry country. This is not a dry map right now. We barely even show the drier feeling humidity. Like we only barely get into the negative dew points up here, and we're getting at like a 52 degree dew point here in San Diego, and that is coming straight off of water that is that temperature the whole way. So you can see that the high dew points begin up here off the coast. Like I said, California is currently getting the like rainy day vibes that are usually hanging out in our Pacific Northwest area, shifting all the way down into Death Valley, into the Bay Area, into Southern California. And this is kind of a hint at what's to come if there's more water in this area than can be currently managed by the land. Now, it's a great thing for farmers, for those dang old sweet farmers who are stuck growing almonds because it's the only way they can keep their water subsidies. You know, hey, you don't even have to use that many of them. Maybe you can just fake leave your spigot on, and you'll get more next year. But this is almost drowning crops level humid. So I'm gonna look at fungicides as being something that will be very popular in the California farming community this spring. But even on the relative humidity maps, you can see the clouds forming. And look at this is very moist for California, but this is hot. This is sweaty hot of humidity off out here still in the Atlantic. We are still seeing like midsummer type. This is getting into tropical storm territory type, like, oh my gosh, boiling pot of water situation. And we see it scrape up the sides of the mountains here. And what happens in Mexico will show you the power of the mountains to protect you. It also shows you right here next to Death Valley, the power of the mountains to protect you from rapid temperature and humidity exchanges. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the observed precipitation. Because also in the upper elevations, they're not getting rain, it's just coming as snow. But let's look at all 24 hours. Remember how this is a color range that you only see on like the 72 hour and 168 hour precipitation analysis? This is a lot of water. And I mean, this is in the heaviest of it here is in their national park area and in the upper elevations of Southern California. It's not like every single square inch is getting the same amount of water. It's also that adiabatic lifting, that rain shadow type effect that it'll rain on if the rain can only get down so far, it'll rain in the mountain first because the mountain's way up there. That's not how the mechanics of that work, but it's how you can think about it. Of the rain doesn't feel like going all down the mountain. It'll flow down the mountain once it's rained there, but holy crap, look at that. I've been in the clear here. This is what I was expecting this past weekend. When all of last week I was saying we might get a winter storm in the 4th, 5th, 6th of February, I was expecting this amount of moisture to be just a little bit further north. I thought that our mid-Atlantic region was going to get this, but this is safe in the territory of like wet spring, winter, early spring kind of vibes. This, however, is torrential. We've got a lot of California. I think this is getting the rain California has needed for the past 20 years. I think this is like, I mean, we are literally reaching 1,000-year flood levels of rainfall in the San Diego area because 10-year, 100-year, and 1,000-year flood are terms that are like based on just the precipitation we observed from like the scientific revolution onwards. Just from when we started having rain data that people respected scientifically. That's what we based our 100,000-year floods on. And if you remember, that's only a couple hundred years. So don't really know what a 1,000-year flood is. 1,000-year flood is actually just a probability. It's a number that pops out of a probability calculation based on our shorter variability of precipitation. But it's not saying we've only seen this once in 1,000 years. It's saying statistically, based on the past 215 years, we expect this to happen only 0.001% of the time. And if you multiply that by the amount of time, they're like, oh, but I would argue that science needs to be less confident about their annual flood ranges. Let's take a look now at wow. You can see, okay, so it does also kind of curve up. The winds we're slightly curving up, giving that uplift effect to places with a directly southern facing border. So like escarpments and mountain ranges and boundaries that have a southern facing border you can see that elevation effect. And that's also possibly with the snowfall effect coming in here too. This is a lot of elevation based. Is it snow or is it rain? Still having a fairly dry time on the from the Carolinas up, but the deep south is seeing continued banding of, I mean, and there, Texas, California are not getting, the rain is not letting up on those two areas. Whatever they've done, they accidentally did a rain dance or something, because here it is. Let's look at where the snowfall was. Looking great for, yeah, if you like to ski in Nevada, man, you're golden. Northern California and Mountain California ski slope areas probably going to be great. Let's look at our seasonal snowfall analysis. What kind of snowpack we got? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, baby. The West Coast has gotten, I mean, this is looking like what you see in an El Nino year to me. The West Coast has really gotten the bulk of our snow. They're well over 120. I mean, that's like what happens in one event now. Yeah, still the sad, lonely South not getting any, but even the lake effect snow areas that are king have not seen the same amount of snowfall as these the western Rocky Mountain ranges. Let's go ahead and zoom out. I want to look at Zoom Earth, actually. I want to see what we've got on our global pattern winds with watching the... Y'all giving away my exact coordinates? Okay, fine. Oh, my face is in front of it. Haha. I did that on purpose. See? Now, let's take a look at our live radar. I mean, the satellite's really gorgeous too, but I mean, this is spinning up so many little echo eddies, is what I'm calling them. We've been trying to have this Sargasso Sea high for so long that I think we're finally moving off into no protection land. Look at this. Okay, so this is usually where you'd see it funneling into Seattle, but aloft, due to this giant center of circulation out here, we're seeing a good onshore flow of what usually would sweep back down and around. And let's take a look at that satellite. Look at that. Okay. So this is your clockwise rotation. This is your in the northern hemisphere high pressure type of circulation. And up here, yeah, look at that incredibly high pressure high. Remember, that's like having your thumb down on the squishy part of that toy where you can see the liquid move on the inside. It's like squishing down one of those things where high pressure is. So right next to it, where the winds are parallel in direction to the isobars, that's where we can see our fastest winds increase. And they want to flow towards the areas of low pressure. This is our, this is the big low that was moving onshore this entire time, but we still didn't quite erase that Alaskan low. This is like the area of low pressure that spawned what came here, but we still didn't get rid of this good low out here. Now Hawaii actually feeling a lot of atmospheric pressure too. So I wonder what I still haven't done a lot of research on the connections between atmospheric pressure and seismic activity, and like what the thresholds would have to be in order to like send an area over the edge of like tectonic activity. But I feel like they're all in pressure units, so they can, it's literally pressure but under the ground. So um, yeah, in fact, I would like to see geologists make a pressure map. That would be really nice if I could see what pressure everything was feeding on. Um, so this high, I think, is a movement upwards of what we had seen in this area. We had seen a big high for like 3 or 4 weeks in this area. I think it has shifted itself into Canada. Let's take a look at wind. Yeah, still seeing a lot of strong onshore winds there. I mean, blowing up into the Four Corners regions, even like getting into Utah, getting through Arizona. We're trying to do something here. I can feel it trying to go counterclockwise in a large formation. We're just doing small versions of it. Let's take a look at satellite with that. Taking a look at the, yep, this is that like inflow jet on this low. This is the low pressure system, kind of centered over Salt Lake or just west of Salt Lake right now, and still bringing onshore flow of winds from the area where it had cold, dryable, the wettable dry air from up here into Los Angeles. And still like even trying to spin itself a mini eddy spiral down there, but it's really an inflow area for the low that's located over Salt Lake. Now this I kind of wanted this to have met up with the other cold air, but that hope fell apart. I'm just glad that we're not seeing this level of flooding on top of the Houston and Louisiana area, the Arklatex region that we saw a lot. I mean, California wasn't getting off easy earlier when we had that big polar cold. Well, actually, LA was one of the only places that didn't get that big polar cold in the middle of January. So maybe they are due for the severe weather by, I mean, it's a lot of rain for California. Like Dr. Reed Timmer, the storm chaser, is out there right now, and he's getting some great footage of actual like rivers and basins flooding and swelling up, but he's not getting much like surface video of large landslides or anything, because it's only a massive amount of water for the area. It's a desert, and it only when it rains it pours in the desert. And I mean, honestly, I think this is gonna be the new normal, but not gonna try to not say anything. I'm just saying, wouldn't it be wild if this Gulf of California went into California? Be kind of crazy if this just became an island. Instead of like people think California is going to fracture itself off into an island. It'd be wild if we just like got a flood so bad that it just never went away. We do have tons of, there's the Salton Sea, and there's so many volcanoes down here that we wouldn't be without land. They would just need more bridges. Okay. Let's go to the solar weather now, because I have talked about the weather for far too long. I mean, atmospheric weather. Oh, that's not the one I wanted yet. I'm not going there yet. Sorry, these have such similar AstroSeek, and they're right next to each other on the Space Weather Live and AstroSeek have similar looking logos, and they look very close. They're on my bookmarks tab. So, oh yeah. Oh, okay. So this was downgraded from earlier today. This was a type 4 angular width with less than 100 or greater than 180 degrees, potential partial halo CME. Let's look at its beautiful launch though. It's recorded across 2 or 3 events. So they've got the white lines that define the angular width of it are kind of spread out between these different events. So this is where they've marked in the white lines the larger event, and here we start to see that 12 petaled pattern, lotus petal flower shape erupting from the sun again. This is a gorgeous one, in my opinion. That's a really good. You can see how the entire, now it came off of this region here, region 3575, the one that that made its turn around the sun that I was expecting more of when it was Earth direct, and didn't. I mean, it gave us those strong storms a couple days ago too. But let's see. This is the exact area that they show it exploding from, and this is the rest of it. Think of it like a slow motion image of a water balloon. The water balloon only gets punctured in the one spot, but like a slow motion image of a water balloon getting popped. It only gets punctured by the needle in the one spot, but the entire rest of the balloon ripples and explodes in a way because there's been that like tension, the surface tension release, and everything that was holding it all together as an envelope around the water. The surface tension gives it a lack of structure that creates, it's not exactly a ripple effect, but it's a ripple effect. And then right at the same exact time, noon today, what were y'all doing at noon UTC today? I think that is actually about when I woke up. But also I've missed a couple days here. So let's go back. The 4th, didn't see anything too major. Saw like 6 CMEs. The 5th, we saw this type 2 that was actually, it was nothing to, it was something, but it was nothing to write home about. I think it was the first one we saw from 3536. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and look straight at those sunspots. Don't look straight at the sun. Look at the sunspots. Because it's quite striking that to me, that 3575 right here is shrinking as it goes away from the Earth. And as 3576 comes into Earth view, it's also getting more and more complicated. That's a complicated order right there. And both of those are this type that's a beta gamma delta, which is a beta gamma type sunspot region where the order of the holes is in reverse of what it should be for the North or South Pole. Like north or south should be first, depending on which north or south hemisphere it's in. And it's also got a delta type hole in it, which are what make it pretty, in my opinion. The delta is what makes it really pretty looking. But both of those are really active right now. I mean, this one's actually nothing to snooze about, because this is a beautiful class alpha. Look at that. It should look like ringworm. That's an alpha. Very, very gorgeous. Now this is 3572, 3575. This is what we've seen most of our M-class flares from in the past 3 days. Look at, I mean, it's really about out of Earth's view, but it's got that like, almost looks like the orbitals of a chemical, like a tetrahedral orbit, where you can see this north, and this north, and this south, and this south, like into and out of the page. If you're thinking in 3 dimensions with the color grading on this of charge and magnetism moving into and out of the sun's surface, you can kind of see how this would be like a flat slice of a tetrahedral or octagonal orbit of orbital shells. If you're talking about chemistry, they still got proton fluxes at about 20%. So I think this is where we've seen the elevated proton flux from this. We have seen some elevated proton flux over the weekend, which was another reason I needed to take a little break. Sometimes I'm not, sometimes I need to take in the subtler energies. This region has only gotten cooler to my eyes as a meteorologist as it's rotated into our view. Still looking at lower solar flare probabilities than 3537, but still really cool. Really fucking cool. Look at how gorgeous this wave pattern is. This is exactly like how I'm always talking about. Let me see if I can zoom in better. Can I zoom? Can I zoom? Is that going to work? No, it doesn't work. Doesn't really work. But this swirly region is gorgeous, and that implies to me a different level of structure that terrestrial storms have and that solar storms have on their small scale. Like, remember that the reason we don't see this kind of complexity on the sun is that all of their micro scale storms on the sun have to add up to a storm fractally. They have to resonate in order for us to see the storm on the larger picture. That's why, like, a lower sunspot site, like in the areas where there aren't sunspots, there's still storming and magnetic energy going in and out of the surface of the sun, but it's just not cohesive enough over an area to give the same pattern. Here, we are seeing energy moving like this on such a large scale that it's been able to isolate different wells of magnetic charges and resonate itself up to this kind of formation. Really pretty to see this evolve. Really gorgeous to even see, I mean, it's easier to see on the magnetic imaging how fluid these energies are, but even on the sunspot, just the uh um just on the intensity gram here, we can see the little tailing off. This is like the shape of a tornado, or this is the shape of an isolated tornado, or of a terrestrial weather event in which you would be looking for tornadoes. So, oh, speaking of tornadoes, they had a really cool. Let's go ahead and look at the well, no, I want to look at latest CMEs too, because I want to show. No, they have it labeled as solar flares. Yeah. Okay. So, massive solar flare earlier this morning. M class here, M class here, M class here, M class here. All through Sunday, we were leading up to a little lull, little tiny lull here. Then we shot right back up to big activity. I mean, yesterday was almost, didn't even count. The 4th was quite energetic. We were in a sleepy phase, all of us. We were in a little sleepy phase, the pre-wake up sleepy phase, before we woke up today and got some M-class flares popped off. Big spike right here. Almost breached M-class territory here, and then we got into M-class territory here. Then I thought we would actually, earlier today when I was preparing for this forecast, I thought we were going to get this downward slope all the way back down to B territory, but it looks like we're doing another mini elevation up into the C-class territory. So I'm expecting more M-class flares very soon. And as you can see, most of these have been from those 2 regions with those fun sunspot classifications, 3575 and 3576 have been doing really well. Let's take a look at what that looks like on video, though. Well, no, I haven't looked at if Enlil has modeled anything. Nothing fun on those models. Pretty isolated, I would say, from reality. I want to look at the solar images. That's what I want to look at. Space Weather Live has added some more sandwiches to the platter too. Like, look at that beast. Added some more composite images, so you can kind of see this is a really high wavelength. Take a look at the sparking. So this is where we saw actual big launches as it completed its turn around Earth-facing disk territory, and that big ripple was another launch. But see how sparky this is? See how ready to pop off this new solar region rotating into our view is? It's a little disorganized, but it is swirly and electric, and that like lightning-like pattern is showing up really strongly. Let's take a look at beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, let's see her one more time, because there are some really cool shapes happening up here and here, but this is what I want to look at. Let's look at the saying goodbye region, this hot longitude. Rotating goodbye, but coming into our view is this big old rainbow palace over here. Really trying to do something. I think you can see it on this one as well. Beautiful, beautiful. You saw that ejection there. Spitting it out. This is really active. It's just not spitting yet. And then we look at this is the one where I can see the field lines. I want to see the beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Let's now turn and take a look at our astrological weather, because again, it's all related. We can only tell this much about our sun. Just think of what we can't tell about the other planets. We just had a Mercury conjunct Pluto, so making your communications really highlight fear and power. We've got the moon moving into Capricorn. Remember the last time moon was in Capricorn? Triggered a volcano. But no, we're only getting the moon in Capricorn manifesting this time as after it moved through all the trigger point. Remember how the moon had to move all the way through Capricorn into Pisces first? It had to go through all the trigger planets here to be able to reach Saturn and go. This time, the moon is nowhere near making her, well, she's approaching her first conjunction with the inner planets. So I expect that we won't I don't know. My guess is that we won't see a real eruption until the moon makes its way through the inner planets, and that would culminate on the 10th on Friday on the new moon. So bringing that energy into her transit through Pisces will be interesting. The moon right now, though, is making a trine to Jupiter, showing us where we need to make our money moves, showing us where we need to be more on our boss bitch attitude, how to make this work. We're going to see a lot of our flaws come up, and we're going to be frustrated about how to deal with it, but it'll all be for growth. I just don't know what that means yet. It always unfolds itself. Mercury in Capricorn, Mercury coming out of Capricorn and into Aquarius, though, I think people are going to start saying a lot of prophetic shit and not realizing what they're saying And that's coming from somebody who just does that all the time. Like, welcome to my world. I don't mean to be, maybe we all have a little bit of gift of prophecy from that trickster energy of Mercury. It is a Mars day, and I started this broadcast in a Jupiter hour. Oh no, we're in a Jupiter because I just loaded this. I started this in a Saturn hour, of course, because I had to. I've been feeling Saturn a lot lately. Not like feeling Saturn, but like, wow, I'm aware Saturn. Thank you. And that is also as Saturn's making that more exact. You know, they're at the same exact degree, Saturn and Jupiter are. And again, grand sextile with the moon. Venus making a nice trine to Uranus. So beauty, materiality, wealth, physical luxury. I'm thinking sweet and salty because Venus is sugar, but also I always think of he craved that mineral goat when I'm thinking of, mountain goats that want to climb up the side of the mountain to lick the salt. Like, that's what I think of Capricorn. Like, you want to reach the top just so you can be salty, Capricorn. That's what you want to do. You want to reach the top so you can be salty about everyone you left behind. Not me. Stay here down in Venus land and rot in the sugar. No, I won't. I'm not gonna rot. We're gonna figure out how to rise above indulgence and use it for material gain for the entire oppressed world, but we're still figuring out how to do that. The other half of this chart is feeling so empty right now, and I know a lot of people in the younger millennial and elder Gen Z generation area, that 90s to 2000s cusp babies, who have a lot of planets in both Aquarius and Capricorn. And I think that epitomizes the trends arising right now, where Gen Z is like, how do millennials look older than us? Guys, it's because when we were your age, we also looked older than we do now. Millennials who survived this long are aging in reverse because you just died if you didn't learn how to take some years off. It's not a joke. The younger generations really are not going to make it as long if they do the same things older generations have done. I was part of the first wave to get like the most like accumulated effects of what previous generations have done to us, and I couldn't keep going like that. When people don't just get more pretty out of nowhere, other than surgery and shit, but that doesn't last. You become more radiant. Your face starts to glow. I have not put on highlighter, and I've never had to put on highlighter since I started being true to myself and like eating food, like eating real food and trying not to need as many medicinal things as possible. Like, Gen Z, you will glow if you figure out what is killing you and what's killing all of us. It's just that, like, you're in the age. I'm talking to my early Gen Z people, not my later Gen Z people who have outer planets in Pisces, but older Gen Z people who have outer planets in both Capricorn and Aquarius. You're going to figure out your beauty secret by realizing what's keeping you rotten. Like that's the only way. I feel like Venus is really here to show, like, Venus in Capricorn is giving me vibes of like that 75-year-old who looks 15, but she's like, oh, all I do is like, I'm vegan and I don't talk to men. Like, that kind of shit. Find your version of that. Find your version of staying hydrated. It's not water talk. Geez, good God. What are we doing to water? That's a whole rant I'm not going to go on. What are we doing to water? It's not good. Are we honoring it? Are we honoring water? Hopefully. Okay. let's go ahead and turn this off because I'm going to start. The longer I look at that natal, the longer I look at that, the more I want to rant about things that it's not like I'm not allowed to rant about them, but it's not the time for me to talk about certain things yet. And it's coming. It's coming. I'll be able to talk about them eventually. But for now, I have to couch my thoughts in cryptic messages. That's another pro tip of how to survive long. Ask old people how they made it. And if they say be normal, don't do that. Listen. We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. Don't just learn lessons for ourselves. We learn lessons for others too, but sometimes if you try to tell people their lesson too early, they'll actually avoid the lesson longer because they'll be like, nah, that can't be it. I'm going to run away from anything that sounds like that. You know? Not run away from our lessons too early. All right. The measure of my success is my joy. The amount of joy you have allowed yourself to experience is the greatest indicator of your allowance of energy and success. Whenever you are feeling good, you are an enormous successful contributor. I'll read that again. The amount of joy you have allowed yourself to experience is the greatest indicator of your allowance of energy and success. When you are feeling good, you are an enormous successful contributor. I feel successful every time I sit in a moment and feel in my body, this is what people dream of. And you're only allowed to feel that if you aren't hating yourself for having it. If you are as successful as you will allow yourself to be. And it's not like, oh, I would be successful if I just started thinking I allow it. No, you can't just consciously think, oh, I allow success. I allow success. You have to actually, every time you succeed, sit with the feeling of success and let the feeling of success permeate into your body. Which is icky sometimes. It feels icky to feel successful and joyful when you felt so bad for so long that you're like, oh, I hated people who felt this happy for so long. I must be bad if I'm feeling good. No, actually, it's just that for a long time, the only people who had that much success and joy were not great. And things are changing. All you have to do is align with your real self, align with your real humanity and your divine spark, the fire within, the thing that makes you you, the thing that is boiling the pot in your stomach, the like fire that goes all the way up and down and through and beyond. I don't even know how to say it without sounding like somebody who's ripped off spiritual knowledge before. Like, I don't even know what words to say to describe the feeling of resonance with yourself and alignment and like knowing yourself. I don't even know how to describe that without sounding like I'm quoting somebody who's trying to make money off of this really basic knowledge of be yourself. Like I don't know. Again, maybe I'm just jaded about a lot of hippies, but you won't have to make money off your spirituality if you are doing it. It will. Money's not evil, but a lot of people with money are. I don't know. We're so close to me being able to talk about all the things that have made their way into my consciousness over the past weekend, but it is not yet. We are not yet at the time that I can talk about all of this, but guys, just I'm not being clickbait. I'm just saying, like, there's so much I want to say behind what I'm saying right now, but it's not the time. It will be the time, I believe, once the moon passes through the personal planets and Pluto and the sun once we have this Aquarius stellium, once we have an officially locked in Aquarius stellium, it'll be the time for future messages. But currently, we are evenly battling it out between the sun, Mercury, and Pluto in Aquarius, getting us ready to talk about the new stuff. Mercury being a divine messenger and getting that information to us, but we still have both Mars and Venus and the moon, the physical body, in Capricorn, and we need to chill and let it integrate into our body before we speak it out. So let's keep integrating our downloads before we speak them too fast. Let's keep taking care of our body and drinking water. Let's keep eating as many fruits and vegetables and well-sourced things as possible. Know your entire trail of what you're putting into your mouth, and you'll know what comes out of it. But if you don't know what goes in your mouth, you're not going to know what comes out of it. Okay, what else did Mercury say? Mercury's a little trickster. He got those little devil horns, got those little Taurus bull horns on. Look, I look like a Taurus baby when these horns come out. I have my little bull horns on when I'm wearing this. So, you know. If you know, you know. And if you don't worry about it. Just be happy. Just be joyful. Not even happy. Be joyful. That's all you need to know. Okay, everybody. I love you all. I think I'm going to end this at 108 minutes. Think about that. 108. I am not ready to show you guys that drawing yet, but man, I've got one. Okay. I love you all very much. Thank you so much for returning back here. This has been today's Weather Tonight with Cloud Hudson. Please follow me on all the things that you feel called to. And that would be like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever. It's all digital. So one's not better than the other. They're all digital. So, okay. Bye for now. I love you all very much. Good night.